Welcome to Global Crossover, the intersection of peace. This is Intersections. Global Crossover. People, energy, and geopolitics. globalcrossover.com.
Water Thieves. Unveiling the mechanisms of the water mafia. Corporate and government control of water to manipulate people despite its free availability. Water, a fundamental resource for sustaining life, is accessible to all naturally and freely. However, the management and distribution of this precious resource often fall under the influence of corporations and governments, enabling them to wield significant control over individuals and communities. In this report, I'd like to share with you the methods employed by certain entities to exploit water's availability and regulate its access, ultimately exerting power over populations. Various real-world examples highlight the complex interplay between corporate interests, governmental policies, and the consequences for people. Privatization of water resources. Corporations engage in the privatization of water resources, transforming a public good into a marketable commodity. This process allows them to monopolize water supply and distribution, controlling its availability and pricing. One prominent example is the case of Nestlé, which operates numerous bottled water brands worldwide. Nestlé has faced criticism for bottling and selling water from public sources, such as springs and groundwater reserves, often paying nominal fees for massive extraction while reaping substantial profits. Governmental regulations and legislation. Governments play a crucial role in water management through regulatory frameworks and legislation. However, these regulations can be shaped by corporate interests, leading to policies that favor certain companies or industries. For instance, hydraulic fracturing, fracking, despite the harm to the environment, has revolutionized the oil and gas industry but requires vast amounts of water. In regions where fracking is prevalent, governments may prioritize the industry's water needs over those of local communities, potentially causing water scarcity for residents. It can also cause air and/or water pollution due to the toxic chemicals used in the process of hydraulic fracturing. Control of water infrastructure. Infrastructure control grants entities significant power over water distribution systems. Private corporations, such as Veolia and Suez, have established a dominant presence in water management services worldwide. These corporations often enter into public-private partnerships, PPPs, with governments to build and operate water infrastructure. While this approach promises efficiency, it can also result in high prices, inadequate service quality, and limited accountability to the public. Manipulation of water rights and permits. Water rights and permits determine who can access and use water resources. Corporations with significant financial resources can exploit legal systems to secure preferential treatment. For example, in certain regions, agribusinesses have acquired vast water rights, allowing them to divert water for irrigation purposes, thereby depleting water sources for local communities or ecosystems. Bottled water industry. The bottled water industry thrives on creating the perception that its products are safer or of higher quality than tap water. Corporations capitalize on this notion, promoting bottled water as a necessity, even in areas with clean and accessible tap water. The excessive consumption of bottled water not only contributes to plastic waste but also perpetuates the control corporations exert over water sources. While water remains freely available in nature, the control exerted by corporations and governments over its management and distribution poses a significant challenge to ensuring equitable access for all. Privatization, regulatory influence, infrastructure control, manipulation of rights, and the bottled water industry exemplify the tactics employed to maintain control. Recognizing these mechanisms is crucial for empowering communities, fostering sustainable water management, and safeguarding the universal right to this vital resource. Efforts to promote transparency, public participation, and responsible governance are essential in creating a future where water is accessible to all without manipulation or undue control. How can the people take back control of their water from corporations and governments when water is available free for all to use? Reclaiming control, empowering people in the management of water resources. Strengthening community participation. Raise awareness, educate communities about their water rights, the importance of sustainable water management, and the potential consequences of corporate and governmental control. Foster grassroots movements, encourage the formation of community-led organizations and initiatives that advocate for transparent and inclusive decision-making processes regarding water resources. Participatory governance, push for the inclusion of community representatives in water management bodies and decision-making processes, ensuring that local voices are heard and considered. Promoting public common partnerships. Establish public common partnerships, advocate for collaborative models where communities, local governments, and civil society organizations work together to manage and protect water resources. Community-based water systems, encourage the development of community-owned and operated water systems, ensuring that decisions about water management and distribution are made collectively and in the best interest of the community. Implementing sustainable water practices. Conservation and efficiency, promote water conservation practices and the adoption of efficient technologies at both the individual and community levels to reduce water abuse and minimize waste. Rainwater harvesting and decentralized solutions, encourage the implementation of rainwater harvesting systems and decentralized water treatment solutions to reduce reliance on centralized infrastructure and promote local water self-sufficiency. Legal and policy reforms. Lobby for supportive legislation, advocate for legislation that protects water as a common resource, prevents water privatization, and promotes community participation in decision-making processes. Transparency and accountability, push for greater transparency in water management, including public access to information on water sources, usage, and permits. Demand accountability from both corporations and governments in their management of water resources. Supporting alternative models. Cooperatives and social enterprises, promote the establishment of water cooperatives and social enterprises that prioritize community well-being over profit and ensure equitable access to water resources. Public investment in water infrastructure, advocate for increased public investment in sustainable and resilient water infrastructure, reducing dependence on private companies and ensuring long-term public control. Benchmarks. The Blue Communities Project, initiated by the Council of Canadians, this project encourages communities to adopt resolutions recognizing water as a human right, promoting publicly owned and operated water services, and banning the sale of bottled water at municipal facilities. The Cochabamba Water War, in Bolivia, a grassroots movement successfully resisted water privatization efforts by multinational corporations in Cochabamba. Citizens organized protests and blockades, ultimately leading to the cancellation of the privatization contract and the return of water control to the public. By empowering communities, fostering sustainable practices, advocating for policy reforms, and supporting alternative models, people can reclaim control over their water resources from corporations and governments, ensuring equitable access and long-term stewardship. Continue reading more on intersections at globalcrossover.com.
Welcome to Global Crossover, the intersection of peace. This is Intersections. Global Crossover, people, energy, and geopolitics. globalcrossover.com.